Have you ever tried your very best yet still failed to succeed? Perhaps you failed because you lacked something more that was necessary to achieve the success you were searching for. The mathematician Euclid once said, "The whole is equal to the sum of all its parts and greater than any single part." From this idea, we can understand that each individual part will always be smaller than the whole. Therefore, the most important thing is knowing how to combine the necessary parts to create a complete whole. This principle can be used to evaluate, compare, and apply to every human achievement and accomplishment. A negative attitude is one of the main reasons people fail. You may ignore certain events, laws, and forces around you. You may know about them, yet not know how to apply them to satisfy your specific needs. You may also not know how to influence, control, or work in harmony with known or unknown forces. To succeed with a positive attitude, you must keep striving continuously. You must search for something deeper and greater. Failure only comes to those who give up and stop searching for something beyond what they already know. Everything becomes easier once you realize this and begin discovering life's hidden secrets. If a child encounters a difficult puzzle, they may not be able to solve it immediately, but if they continue trying and searching for an answer, they will most likely solve it sooner or later. Although you are no longer a child, life is still filled with puzzles waiting to be solved. With a positive attitude, you can find the answers more easily. Thomas Edison conducted more than 10,000 experiments before inventing the electric light bulb. After every failure, he continued searching for something more until he achieved his goal. Once he discovered those unknown principles, countless electric bulbs were produced. The most important thing is learning how to apply universal laws that have always existed but had not yet been discovered in practical inventions. There are many methods to cure and prevent diseases, but in the past, many of them were still unknown. For example, people did not know how to prevent polio until Jonas Edward Salk applied principles that had never before been used in medicine. His work helped humanity avoid this deadly disease. You can earn a great deal of money if you know how to apply a successful formula. Even if you go bankrupt, you can rebuild your life, perhaps even better than before. This only becomes possible when you discover and correctly apply that formula. If you still have not recognized the formula for success, and fail again because you stray from the principles of success, then next time you must adjust yourself slightly to fit the changing conditions. Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright succeeded in flying because they added something more. Before the Wright brothers, many inventors had come very close to successfully building an airplane. The Wright brothers applied the same principles as others, but they added an extra element beyond that. As a result, they succeeded while others failed. That something more was actually quite simple. They added movable wing flaps with a special design attached to the outer parts of the wings. These allowed pilots to control and maintain the airplane's balance more easily. Those movable flaps later became the predecessors of the small control surfaces used on modern aircraft today. Do you notice a common feature in all of these success stories? In every case, the key lay in applying general principles that had never been applied before. That is what created the difference. Therefore, if you are already close to the peak of success but still cannot overcome the final barrier, try adding something more. This something more does not necessarily mean adding more quantity. The wing flaps were only a small component, yet they enabled airplanes to take flight after countless failures. Quantity is not what matters most. The true value lies in the quality of creativity. Why did the Supreme Court rule that Alexander Graham Bell was the inventor of the telephone? Many people claimed they had invented the telephone before Bell, including earlier patent holders such as Gray, Thomas Edison, Dolbear, McDonough, van der Waide, and Race. Among them, Race came closest to success. However, the small difference that created the great difference was a single screw. Race did not realize that by turning the screw just a quarter turn more, he could transform interrupted electric current into continuous current. Had he known this, he might have succeeded. During the U.S. Supreme Court case, the Chief Justice commented, we see that Race clearly understood what he needed to do in order to transmit the human voice through electrical devices. In his earliest document, he wrote, "If it is possible to create, anywhere or by any means, vibrations with the same curved patterns as a human voice or a combination of voices, then we will experience the same sensation of those voices as though they were speaking directly to us." Race discovered how to reproduce musical sounds, but he could go no further. He could sing through his machine, but he could not carry on a conversation with it. Throughout the entire trial, he openly admitted this fact. Just as in the case of the Wright brothers, the improvement Bell added was relatively simple. He transformed interrupted current into continuous current, the only type of current capable of reproducing the human voice. Both were forms of direct current, but interrupted current contained brief pauses. More specifically, Bell created an open electrical circuit instead of interrupting the current periodically as Race had done. The Chief Justice concluded, Race never thought of that idea. He failed in using electrical devices to transmit the human voice from one place to another. Bell, on the other hand, succeeded in doing so. Under such circumstances, it is unreasonable to claim that Race's work anticipated Bell's discovery. If you follow Race, you will fail, but if you follow Bell, you will succeed. The difference between the two men was simply the difference between failure and success. Had Race continued striving persistently, he too might have succeeded, but Race stopped and accepted failure, while Bell persevered until he achieved success. Whenever an idea suddenly flashes through your mind, write it down immediately. It may be exactly what you have been searching for. We believe you should develop the habit of writing down every thought and feeling that suddenly emerges as it moves from your subconscious mind into your conscious awareness. Albert Einstein developed a profound and complex theory about the universe and the natural laws governing it, yet he relied on only the simple but essential tools ever invented: a pencil and a sheet of paper. He wrote down questions and then answered them himself. You too can develop your mental power by forming the habit of asking yourself questions. Use a pencil and paper to record every question, idea, and answer. Can you think of any great thinker or successful person who did not write down sudden ideas that appeared in their mind? Learn creative thinking from creative thinkers. 2 books, Your Creative Power and Applied Imagination, written by Alex F. Osborne, director of the international advertising firm BBDO, encouraged hundreds of thousands of people to learn creative thinking. Because of this, many people enthusiastically chose to take positive action. Thinking can never truly be considered creative unless it is followed by concrete action. Osborne, like many other creative thinkers, used paper and pencil as his favorite working tools. Whenever an idea appeared, he immediately wrote it down. Like other successful individuals, he always devoted time to thinking, planning, and researching. Alex Osborne affirmed an important truth: everyone has creative ability, but most of us have never taken the time to learn how to use it. The brainstorming methods presented in Applied Imagination have been used in schools, factories, companies, churches, clubs, and even within families. According to Osborne, brainstorming is a process in which 2 or more people use their creativity together to generate ideas, emerging from their subconscious into conscious thought. These ideas are used to answer questions related to a specific problem. Every idea must be written down immediately as it appears in the participants' minds. No criticism or judgment is allowed until all ideas have been completely recorded. Afterward, the ideas are evaluated and analyzed to determine their value and practicality. Universities across the United States have organized many courses on creative thinking. These courses introduce methods that creative thinkers had long applied in industry and business. Creative thinking through sitting and searching for ideas. It was through creative thinking that Elmer Gates helped make the world a better place. He was an American teacher, philosopher, psychologist, scientist, and great inventor. He created hundreds of inventions and discoveries, in art and many different scientific fields. Dr. Gates demonstrated that methods for developing both mental and physical strength could improve human health and increase mental efficiency. Napoleon Hill recalled that, through an introduction from Andrew Carnegie, he once visited Dr. Gates at his laboratory in Chevy Chase. When Napoleon Hill arrived, Dr. Gates's secretary said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to disturb Dr. Gates at the moment. How long do you think I'll have to wait before I can meet him?" Hill asked, "I don't know, but usually it takes about 3 hours." The secretary replied, "Would you mind telling me why you cannot disturb the doctor?" The secretary hesitated and answered, "Because Dr. Gates is sitting and searching for ideas." Napoleon Hill smiled. "What does that mean?" The secretary smiled and said, "It would be better if Dr. Gates answered that question himself. I honestly don't know how long the process takes, but please wait. If you prefer, I can arrange another appointment for you later." Napoleon Hill decided to wait, and it turned out to be a wise decision. What he learned afterward was well worth the wait. Hill later recalled, "When Dr. Gates entered the room, I told him what the secretary had said." After reading Andrew Carnegie's introduction letter, Gates cheerfully asked, "Would you like to see the place where I sit and search for ideas, so you can understand how I do it?" He then led Hill into a small room with completely soundproof walls. The only items inside were a small table and a chair. On the table were some sheets of paper and several pencils. Beside them was a light switch. During their conversation, Dr. Gates explained that whenever he felt stuck on a problem, he would enter this room, close the door, sit down, turn off the light, and begin concentrating intensely. He was applying one of the principles of success, focused concentration. He would ask his subconscious mind for answers to a specific problem, no matter what field it belonged to. Sometimes no ideas appeared, but at other times countless ideas suddenly emerged in his mind. Occasionally it took as long as 2 hours before they came. Once the ideas became clear, he would turn on the light and write them down. Dr. Gates improved and perfected more than 200 inventions that other inventors had begun, but failed to complete just before reaching success. He only needed to add a few missing elements. His method was to analyze the applications of an invention and study its drawings until he discovered the weakness. That weakness was the something more that had been missing. He would take copies of the invention notes and drawings into the room with him. During his sessions of searching for ideas, he focused entirely on finding a solution to one specific problem. When asked to explain this process, Elmer Gates said, "The source of all ideas is knowledge stored in the subconscious mind, together with the results of personal experience, observation, and education. When I sit searching for ideas, I may draw upon any of these sources. In truth, I do not know whether there are any other sources of ideas in this world." Dr. Gates devoted time to concentrated thinking in order to discover something more. He clearly understood what he was searching for, and he turned that desire into concrete action. In Chapter 7, we will discuss how to learn to see which can make your search for that something more easier. Along the way, you may experience failure, but after each failure, you may discover something even greater. Always ask yourself why. Become an observant person. Think and act. We believe every family should own a good dictionary and an encyclopedia, because they can help you discover something beyond what you already know. Learn from Christopher Columbus. Do not be ashamed of failure. You can find the thrilling story of Christopher Columbus in the Encyclopedia Britannica. He studied astronomy, geometry, and cosmology at the University of Pavia. Marco Polo's The Book of Marco Polo, The Theories of Geographers, reports sailors' traditions, and the beautifully crafted ships from distant lands all stimulated his imagination. After many years of study, through inductive reasoning, Columbus gradually became convinced that the world was spherical. Having reached that conclusion, he then used deductive reasoning to believe that Asia could be reached by sailing westward from Spain, just as Marco Polo had reached Asia by continually traveling eastward. He carried within himself a burning desire and searched for opportunities to test his theory. He prepared money, ships, manpower, and all the necessities required to explore the unknown, and more importantly, to search for something more. Then he took action. He constantly kept his goal in mind. For 10 long years, however, he faced the frustrating reality of receiving almost but never quite enough support. The king's dishonesty, the ridicule, doubt, and fear of lesser officials, and the skepticism of people who wished to help him but withdrew at the last moment because of scientific advisors. Doubts, all these prevented Columbus from fulfilling his dream. In 1492, at last, Christopher Columbus received the support he had long desired and searched for. In August of that year, he set sail westward toward India, China, and Japan. He had chosen the correct route and direction. You already know the rest of the story. After stopping at islands in the Caribbean Sea, he returned to Spain carrying gold, cotton, parrots, unusual weapons, mysterious plants, exotic birds and animals, and several native people. Columbus believed he had achieved his goal and reached islands off the coast of India, but in reality he had failed. He had not reached Asia as he imagined, yet even without realizing it, Columbus had discovered something greater. You may fail in your efforts to reach great goals, just as you may fail while trying to reach a distant shore, but in the process, you may discover something valuable, something as precious as the wealth of America. You may also inspire and guide those who follow after you, helping them choose the right path and continue searching for the unknown until they finally reach their goals. Like Columbus, you possess both time and the ability to think, and like him, you can persist with a positive attitude to fulfill your deepest dreams and discover something more. How should you apply this principle? Starting now, choose several principles of success from the examples in this book. Reflect on them, analyze them, and apply them. Learn from principles. Put them into practice. If you are not satisfied with your efforts toward your goals, search for something more. That something more may be something you already know or something entirely unknown. But if you are willing to spend time analyzing, thinking, planning, and searching, you will certainly find it. This chapter would not be complete without introducing the power of natural law. Knowing how to use the power of natural laws is also one of the 17 principles of success we want to share with you. The concept of the power of natural law is actually quite simple. It is merely the name we give to the applied power of known or unknown laws of nature and the universe. In simple terms, the power of natural law can be defined as the use of universal laws, whether those laws are already known or not yet discovered. For example, when an object falls, it is affected by the law of gravity. The law of gravity itself or any other law is not a power by itself, but when we learn how to use such laws correctly, the power connected to them appears. It can be said that splitting the atom, every invention, every chemical formula, every physical phenomenon, and every human action or reaction, whether mental, physical, or spiritual, is the result of applying natural laws. Every result comes from a corresponding cause, and those results are achieved because human beings learn how to use the power of natural law. Human beings are physical bodies with souls, and therefore they are able to think. It is through the ability to think that people learn how to use the power of natural law. In addition, the power of thought enables human beings to turn their ideas into reality. This reasoning is actually not very difficult to understand. In 1905, Albert Einstein introduced to the world his famous equation, E=mc. This formula explains the relationship between energy and matter. When matter reaches the speed of light, we call it energy. When its speed decreases to zero, we call it matter. In the equation, E represents energy, m represents matter, and c represents the speed of light. Einstein's formula can be viewed as a symbolic expression of one of the laws of natural power. By understanding and applying this formula, human beings can transform matter into energy and energy back into matter. As a result, we are able to use atomic power for beneficial purposes, such as lighting entire cities. powering ships, or meeting the most basic daily needs, like producing heat for cooking, and much more. Today we understand that matter, energy, and everything existing in the universe are interconnected.